Every story has a beginning, and this one starts with Carrie. Stephen King, the undisputed king of horror, has written over 60 novels, countless short stories, and shaped the nightmares of generations. If you don't know Stephen King, he's basically the guy who made small towns, kids, and prom nights scary. Truly a cultural gift. In the King Quest, I'm taking on the impossible, reading every single one of his books in the exact order they were published. I'll rate them, rank them, and try not to lose my mind along the way. So if you're a constant reader or just here for the chaos, welcome to the King Quest. The journey begins now. I'm excited! The amount of times I say I'm excited in videos, like I truly need to find a different adjective. Anyways, I'm reading Carrie by Stephen King. I think this is like the third time I'm reading Carrie, or second. And I put some notes in here for myself, which I would be interested to kind of go back and see what I thought. Aw, it must be so horrible to have a parent who thinks you're their curse. What is the obsession with breasts in this book? Actually, that is a very factual point. I've noticed as I've been reading this book that Stephen King mentions breasts a lot. I'm keeping track of how many times to see at the end if I'm bugging out. Like, is this an unreasonable amount of mentions or what? I feel like he mentions every character, every like primary character in this book. I know what her breasts look like. Yeah. Yeah, so I just started. Right now I'm at page 66, which is pretty far into the book if you ask me, because this is a less than 300 page book, 248 pages. No, not even. 242 page book. I think that counts as a novella if I'm not mistaken. And this is Stephen King's very first book that he ever published, at least. I don't know if it's the first one he wrote, but it's definitely the first one he published. So what is Carrie about? This is about a girl named Carrie White who has a gift of telekinesis. It's actually pretty interesting. This is one of those books where you know, maybe not necessarily the exact details of the ending, but you know all of the information pretty much from the get. So like recently I read a line where it's like, in the case of Carrie White, the only witness to any possible prologue to the final climactic events was Margaret White, and she, of course, is dead. So you get these little snippets of information that are basically the ultimate conclusion of the book, but you're kind of starting with like the big information, which is that Carrie White is telekinetic and that something really tragic and really bad happened, and you're kind of working your way from the inception of her telekinesis to the big event at the end of the book. So basically, she's invited to prom night by Tommy Ross, who's like a popular guy at her school. And she thinks this is like the first step towards being accepted, as she is like a social outcast in her school. But things start to take a really dark turn, and she's ultimately forced to exercise her powers on a town that has like mocked and treated her really poorly from the beginning. Basically, things go down. I think at this point everyone pretty knows what goes. I think at this point everyone pretty much knows what goes down at the prom in Carrie, because the movies are so popular, but I won't say so just in case. Honestly, even though this is my third or maybe fourth time reading Carrie, it still is such a good book and so interesting. Obviously, some of it is a little odd, but Stephen King, he does these really like disturbing descriptions. Like, for example, there's this one scene at the beginning where they're throwing Carrie basically gets her very first menstrual cycle, and it is in front of everyone in her gym class in the locker room, and they are mocking her and making fun of her. And he chooses to describe how they have thrown tampons at her, and one of them gets stuck in her pubic hair. And it's just like such a specific description. There's also this scene that really sticks with me where Carrie's mom gets upset. So Carrie's mom is extremely religious, which is interesting as a Christian to read this book, because I can definitely tell that I wonder if Stephen King has a lot of spiritual knowledge, or he just did really good research in this book, because I can definitely see how a lot of biblical references have made their way into this book and into some of the things that Carrie's mom Margaret says to her and some of the things that they practice in their home, that I feel like when I first read this, I didn't catch, but now that I've been like a little bit deeper into my journey, I understand a little bit more of the spiritual references in this book. So that's something that really stood out to me. But anyways, besides that, he describes this one scene where Carrie's mom, who is extremely religious, gets really upset, and he describes her face and her body almost as like contorting in anger. And I just like, I can't get that image out of my brain. It is like so specific and so like disturbing is literally the only word I can think about. And this is not like your typical horror book where there's like jump scares or like things necessarily that you would have nightmares about, but there are some very like, I don't want to say mundane, but like everyday things that he describes in such a like horrific way. Like, for example, her mom locks her in a prayer closet and is telling her to pray in private, as the Bible says that she should, and to repent for whatever she has done to cause her to get her menstrual cycle for the very first time. And she essentially locks Carrie up, and she's talking about all of the other times that she's locked Carrie up in this closet and left her there for extended periods of time. And at one point, Carrie essentially passes out from a lack of eating and also the stench of her own waste. And so it just like takes like a mother punishing her daughter and brings it to like the total extreme. So literally horrific. Anyways, let's get this a bad boy read. Do y'all see this? This typo is just like a major inconvenience to me right now. It's just really bothering me. I have noticed that though with like Stephen King books, like I often will find like 1 or 2 typos. I don't know. I don't think I'm like that aware of typos in books. Like I find them here and there, but I feel like with Stephen King books, I generally tend to find a typo. And now I feel like every time I read a Stephen King book, I'm gonna be extra vigilant of that just to see if I'm tweaking or not. But anyways, moving on from that hyperfixation that I've had, we've gotten to the part in the book where Carrie is just fully aware of her abilities, and my good sis is not having any more of her mother's nonsense. She's literally like, no, this is my life and this is what I'm gonna do about it. And I am so here for the drama that this is gonna cause. I mean, I already know how it's gonna like get to, but anyways, we'll see. I feel like she's gotten to the point, not only the fact that she has powers, but her abilities have kind of, sorry, wait, whoa. She's gotten to a point where she is aware of and starting to practice and become more proficient with her abilities. And she has always seemed to have an issue with the way that her mom chooses to address and raise her. However, now because she has gained some control over her abilities, she feels like she's gained some power over her own life. And this is where we see her kind of like rebelling. And I don't blame her. Like, as a very Christian woman myself, I understand the frustration of people like Carrie's mom, who it's less about faith and more about religion. And she's heavily focused on like the religion, and she also tends to lean towards the extremely centered and focused on like sin and all of the temptations of the enemy, and just the like the negative things in life, you know what I mean? Like, I can understand why Carrie feels extremely restricted and frustrated, and why she would blow up in the way that she is right now at the like very like first instance where she finally feels like she has some power and control over her own life. Because even people who don't have abilities really be tweaking when they don't have control over their own life. And it's sad that she's a child and going through this. That's the tea. It's getting juicy. I have read this book at least 2 other times, maybe 3. And this is the most that I have enjoyed this book of all the times that I have read it. And I think it's because I'm paying such careful attention to see like what I want to talk to y'all about. But I just have to say, like, first and foremost, if you ignore all the breast stuff, because what's up with that? The way that he describes things, there's no words for it. It's just so good. Like, it's so good. I'm at the part right now where we're really at the crux of the story, like the scene that everyone knows about, the prom. And I'm like infuriated. Like, so everyone is kind of like laughing, and they describe it at first as like, this is so horrific. Like a nervous laugh almost, like not like this is funny, but like what the heck is going on? Like, you just gotta laugh because what else is there to do? But then as we go along, like Carrie hops off the prom stage and someone puts out their foot and trips her, and everyone's laughing even more. And I'm just like, respectfully, is this a good for her book? Because they are kind of, I don't condone violence, but like, y'all kind of deserve it. You're horrible people. First of all, someone already pointed out that it's blood. Like literal large amounts of blood covering multiple people, and you guys think it's funny? And then you're gonna trip her, and like he is describing in such detail how you could smell the blood. It smelled like something sick and rotted, and she's crawling along the floor. And this is funny to you guys? Are you demented? Like, this town in Maine, like, do you all need to go be like hospitalized? Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with people? Anyways, that's where I'm at right now. I just like, I really do not like them, and that's the tea. All right, y'all, I don't got a lot of time to update because there are some people in my house and I can already hear that Waffle is causing a ruckus. But I've officially finished the first Stephen King book in a long list of Stephen King books to read. I am so freaking obsessed with this book. I really enjoyed it. I think that Stephen King does a really good job of writing these characters. Not only just their relationships with each other, but how those relationships play into how these characters will act. So, like, for example, Carrie and her mom, I think it's really interesting how her mom is hyper religious, and Carrie, she wants to rebel, and she does clearly, but while she's rebelling, she also gets like little touches of maybe not remorse, like she is, yeah. Say hello. I had to go grab her because she was really being a bad bunny. What I was saying was that you can see in a lot of Carrie's actions how she has kind of internalized a lot of her mother's religious beliefs, and she's really fighting her own self to push past them because she knows that they're wrong, but also just knowing and like feeling guilty about it. I think he really portrays some of those like conflicting feelings that she's having really well. And then, you know, like just her innocence as a character, you know, obviously if she's been sheltered her whole life, she doesn't really have other friends, and her mom is very religious. She's kind of had like this sheltered and naive way of being. She's easily pleased, almost childlike. And so it's just so beautifully and well written. And then just the descriptions of like some of the horror aspects of this book, like they were bone chilling. It was definitely giving Final Destination. Some of like the like body contortions, like that like grin, things like that he just describes. It just like it was horrifying, it was bone chilling, it was everything I needed it to be. So I think overall I'm gonna end up giving this book a 4.75 stars. I was, I think, pretty close to a 5-star read. I loved it so much. I definitely feel like I appreciated it much more this time around than I have in the past. And it really makes me excited to get to the rest of Stephen King's backlist. His next book is Salem's Lot, which is the first Stephen King book that I've ever read. It's what got me into reading The King of Horror, and I'm really excited about that. So I am doing a little bookshelf unhauling, and while I work on that, I think I'm gonna watch the movie for Carrie. There looks like there's 3 versions. So there's the 1976 two-time Oscar nominated version. There is the 2002 version, which oddly looks like it's older than a 1976 version. Can't explain it. But then there is the 2013 version with my girl. I am kind of interested in seeing the older ones, and I can get both of them together through a subscription, but I think I'm gonna go with the 2013 version. It's a 96-minute one, and I'm gonna try to use that as like a, a gauge of a timer to get this bookshelf stuff going, and I hope it is good. Okay, friends, I felt the need to be a prom queen. Just getting in the spirit, you know what I mean? Anyways, this is the part of the video where I will usually rank these bad boys. However, since this is the only one we've read so far, congratulations, it's number one. That being said, I thought instead I could show y'all a little collection of my editions of Stephen King's Carrie, because this is probably the book that I have the most editions of. So obviously I have the hotter edition, which is the one that I've read in this vlog. Then I have the vintage edition, which is probably my favorite. How beautiful is she? Come on now. This was the 50th anniversary edition. She's so pretty. To be invited to prom is a dream come true for Carrie. Ah, this art is just impeccable. Then I have a first edition hardback. It took me so long to track this down. I also paid an amount that I don't want to admit to for this one, but how amazing. Come on now. She's in pretty good condition. And lastly, I have the Barnes & Noble bind up of his first 3 books of Stephen King, Carrie, Rage, and Salem's Lot, with the silver sprayed edges. And I got this before sprayed edges were all the rave. Like, come on now. She's a trendsetter. That's all I got for y'all. So thanks so much for watching. We're leaving things off with Carrie at number 1, mostly because she's the only one there. But if you made it this far, make sure you leave a crown emoji in the comments. Let me know. Did you feel bad for Carrie, or are you secretly plotting for the chaos? If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're diving in to Salem's Lot next, and that's where the horror grows fangs. Bye!